It is said that Marcion split the Creator who spoke in the old scriptures from the God revealed in Jesus. From such language one might infer that all Christians of Marcion's day automatically identified the true and highest God with the Creator of this lower world. Then at some later point, some renegade theologians like Marcion and the Gnostics came along and divided them. It's time to question this conventional wisdom. In the 2nd century, there were basically two major theological options. Either a person could wholly identify the high God, called the Father, with the creator of this world, or one could distinguish them. Among intellectuals, the latter position, which can be named deferred demiurgy, was not uncommon, especially among Platonists. Deferred demiurgy had at least two sub-options. One could either A, view the lower creator as working separately from the Father, or B, understand him as the Father's representative, the expression of the Father's creative mind. Among Christians, the latter option can be called logos theology. Such a theology views the Father as an all-powerful immaterial mind. In eternity past, the logos, or word, emerges from this mind as the expression of the Father's purely mental activity. The Logos then creates the lower world. The Logos is the expression of the Father's mind. Therefore, the creative activity of the Logos can be referred back to the Father. The immaterial Father in this theory is the creator of the material world, despite the fact that he creates nothing directly. The Father's creative activity is processed through his lower agent, the Logos. Logos theology allowed Christian intellectuals to attribute creation equally to both Father and Son, while simultaneously protecting the Father's transcendence. Marcion's view was different. The Pontian agreed that the Father was distinct from the lower creator. He simply viewed the creator as other and even opposed to the Father's intentions for humanity. Marcion never explained where the lower creator came from. Perhaps he felt no need to explain it. Since he was focused on salvation, the Pontian seems to have been uninterested in the questions of high theology or cosmology, very different than the Sethians. Like Logos theologians, Marcion attributed creation both to the Father and to the lower creator. The lower creator crafts this lower and material world. The Father has his own creation, his own world, his own heaven. The Father's world is the world of invisible, not visible realities. He is the creator of invisible things. While the lower creator makes visible reality, the lower creator, at least initially, was not aware of the Father or his higher creation. Thus he swore by himself that he was the only God. Both Logos theology and Marcionite theology are versions of deferred demiurgy. Creation in both views is not wholly and directly attributed to the Father. The creation of the material world, at least, is credited to the agency of a lower being who is either connected to the Father or initially ignorant of him, according to Marcion. Both versions of deferred demiurgy were equally valid possibilities in Middle-Platonic philosophy because they were both equally possible readings of Plato's Timaeus. In the Timaeus, Plato attributed the creation, or one should say organization, of the material world to a demiurge, or creator figure. It was a philosophical dispute whether Plato viewed this demiurge as the high deity, the Father or God, or as subordinate to him. The Platonist Atticus, for instance, identified the demiurge with the high God, while his contemporary Numenius distinguished them. What was not disputed, however, was that the demiurge used subordinates, called young gods, to create aspects of the lower world, including the human body. Thus, the idea of deferred demiurgy as such was familiar to Platonists. They all believed that when it came to making certain things, the high God did not get his hands dirty, but delegated creation to subordinates. One can fruitfully compare Logos and Marcionite theology with the thought of Numenius of Apamea, who thrived about 150 of the Common Era. Numenius had an interest in confirming Platonic doctrines in quote-unquote barbarian philosophies, Syrian, Egyptian, Jewish, and so on. Following the Timaeus, he distinguished the creator from the primal God, also called the good itself, and the primal intellect. Numenius believed in a triad of three principles: the Father and two aspects of the creator, the one who contemplates the Father and the one divided by his alternative focus on matter. The primal God sows the seeds of all souls, and the Creator plants them into bodies. The soul's fall into the world was a tragedy, and the point of life is to escape physical existence, rise above this world, and to contemplate the Father. The Apamian valued Jewish theology, but he may have believed that the Jews mistook their lower creator, called Yahweh or Yah-O, for the more primal intellect or father. Numenius himself comments on Plato's Timaeus, quote, Plato knows that among men only the creator is known, while the primal intellect, who is called being itself, is completely unknown among them. For that reason, he says this, as if someone would say, "O human beings, the intellect which you focus on is not the primal intellect, but there's another intellect before it, superior and more divine. This superior intellect was the Father." This particular view resembles the thought of Cerdo and Marcion in that the true Father was unknown by those who worshipped the lower creator. Numenius could say that both the Father and the Demiurge were creative agents. The Apamian called the Father creator of being, whereas the Demiurge was creator of becoming. In this model, the Father and the Demiurge do not share a single act of creation. They create on distinct levels. The Father does not shape matter like the Demiurge. At the same time, the Father's intelligence provides the models for ordering the material world. This makes the Father, in Aristotelian language, the formal cause of the lower creation, the one who provides the model or blueprint, while the Demiurge serves as the efficient cause, the actual maker. Insofar as Numenius envisions the Father as creator of a higher essence, the invisible world of being, and the Demiurge as a separate entity who shapes matter, the visible world of becoming, his position resembles that of Marcion. Marcion may also have agreed with Numenius that the Father does not directly engage in works, by which is apparently meant physical work in the physical world. Insofar as Numenius envisions the lower creator and the good or Father as working in tandem on the creation, his position resembles that of the Logos theologians. Such entanglement shows that both Marcion and the Logos theologians were competing in a common Platonic thought world in which notions of deferred demiurgy were already available in the broader philosophical culture. After centuries of philosophers interpreting the Timaeus, Platonic notions of demiurgy were in the air, and Marcion and his Christian contemporaries could effectively pick and choose which Platonic ideas they believed were most faithful to their scriptures. And of course, they could adapt or modify aspects of these ideas to fit their biblical interpretations. So, on the topic of deferred demiurgy, there is both agreement and disagreement. Marcion and the Logos theologians agreed that there was a deferred demiurge. Their chief disagreement was centered on his identity and character. For Marcion, the demiurge is the Judean Lord who does not consciously cooperate with the Father. For Logos theologians, the demiurge is the Logos, who is the expression of the Father's mind. This sketch of the Platonic intellectual context indicates that neither the Logos theologians nor Marcion would have admitted to splitting or sundering the lower creator from the Father or to demoting the demiurge. In their minds, there was already and from eternity a distinction between the transcendent Father and the maker of this material world. Thus, by describing a subordinate creator, whether it be the Judean Lord or Christ, they were, from their own perspectives, describing ontological facts, not introducing new theories. From within their Platonizing frameworks, they saw their own respective versions of deferred demiurgy based on biblical texts.